Hello? Is anyone out there? Can anyone hear us? Hello, is anyone out there? Can anyone hear us?
No, because no one's watching.
It looks like we're live. It looks like we're live.
Great.
Shit, come on, open. There we go.
Well, you're the one leading this herd of cats.
Who are you calling a cat?
You. Okay, so...
Oh my god.
Yes, I'm discriminating against cats. What of it?
Hello, good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, or good whatever time of night or day it happens to be, wherever you happen to be. This is Liviana coming to you this evening with something different. And now for something completely different. Live late night chat. I'm joined tonight by three friends, Lunar 5, Panic 8, and Ryan Hau. You can find links to Lunar 5's and Ryan Hau's YouTube channels in the video description. Panic 8 does not actually do videos. But at any rate, we're here and we're going to discuss the future. And by that, we mean to talk about, among other things, what we see as possible outcomes and results of the 2018 and 2020 elections in the United States. And then we will probably move on to other topics. I have a tendency to wander off on digressions, as Lunar 5 has told me many times that I go chasing rabbits and such. But at any rate, so let's, if you guys would like to introduce yourselves, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and my Twitter handle is Lord Blastington.
Okay, next.
No.
I guess that's me then. Hi, I'm Panic. I don't really know what else to say, really. Not much of a personality. I'm just some guy.
Just some guy I met in a diner one night, yeah. No.
I mean, that sounds pretty fit.
Okay, Lunar 5.
Fine, I'm Lunar 5. I have a YouTube channel. I don't upload anything to it anymore.
You do have some sort of Let's Play type videos up, though, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't bother watching them. They're pretty horrible.
I enjoyed the ones about your campaign in, what was it, Rome Total War with the Iceni or Iceni tribe.
Yeah, but that's because you fetishize Celtic culture a lot.
Well, yeah, but... Okay, so the topic we have chosen is the future. And so what do you guys see coming down the pipe?
Lots more fighting.
What was that?
Lots of more fighting.
Lots of more fighting.
At least like sort of like an internet meme war sort of thing. But yeah, like if things are going the way they are, we probably do see actual fighting.
No, like literal physical fighting.
Yeah.
Oh, so you mean like Antifa and the so-called alt-right?
Yeah, it's kind of grim to think about, but it is a possibility we might see a repeat of Charlottesville.
Well, I hope not.
Nah, I think there's no doubt it will happen. Not so much as far as like the same kind of the guy running people over, but there will most definitely be more conflict because this is like we're at a breaking point right now. People are so fed up with one another, they just want to like just basically get in each other's faces because they think that actions speak louder than words, essentially.
So what do you think about the elections next year? Do you think the Democrats will be able to take back a majority in either of the two houses of Congress?
Nope.
Maybe. All I'll say is maybe, but not like most likely.
It's kind of hard to tell, seeing how divisive the current culture is, but then again, like, there's a lot of things that we didn't expect, like Trump winning. Like, how many people expected that? Like, I think the only people who are saying that because they clearly saw Clinton wasn't really even making an effort.
Yeah, she ran a very bad campaign. So why a Lunar 5 since you have...
wait, I just want to say real quick, like, you're running a bad campaign when you're telling people Pokemon Go to the polls, and then you find out that Pokemon Go was actually a tool for the Russians.
Are you kidding? That was a brilliant piece of campaigning, sir.
Goodness gracious. All right, so Lunar 5, since you're the one who gave a definite answer to the question, why do you think the Democrats will not regain a majority in either or both of the two houses of Congress?
Partly because they just keep snubbing their base. They, in their minds, can never fail the people. The people can always fail them. It's happened every single time they lost. We fail, blame the voters. We fail, blame the voters. We fail, blame the voters. What do the Republicans do when they lose? They perform an entire autopsy on themselves. Sometimes they get it horribly wrong, but at least they're not going out there blaming the other conservatives, blaming other conservative Christians, their base for, this is why we lost. And the Democrats' base isn't just Democrats, it's also independents. A big chunk of independents still vote Democrat. And if you're going to snub them, well, I don't see you picking up much, if any, votes.
Right, and I guess you saw the news recently that the DNC had gone on a purge where they removed all the progressives from leadership positions, so that now there's like Keith Ellison, if you consider him a progressive, and Bernie Sanders are the only two left in any position of leadership.
Yep, they pretty much purged anyone who was sympathetic to Bernie or to Keith Ellison. They're like, no, we're just going to have all these corporate people. Like, one of them is like, what? I'm trying to remember. She's like, oh, I'm a millennial, black, trans, bisexual person. Like, oh, great. Now you're playing identity politics. Congratulations.
I'm a millennial falcon.
Jealous much?
So,
you see them playing identity politics, and hell, even with the Hillary campaign, they've been playing it. I'd say they've been playing it for, well, both parties obviously play it. But the Democrats have been playing it pretty much like, oh, we're for gay rights. We're not going to do anything about it, but we say we are.
Right. It's a bunch of lip service, a lot of rhetoric, basically. I mean, one of the reasons that I left the Democratic Party back in '94, I wasn't really a member, but I was voting Democratic at the time and had been since '86. The reason that I dissociated myself from them was because I saw, by that point in time, Clinton had been in office a little over a year, Bill, that is, and he would kind of give up rapidly at the first whiff of resistance from the Republicans to any sort of liberal or progressive policy that he brought up. And one of the things that comes to mind immediately is the instead of pushing the service of gays in the military, he came up with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was, kind of, I thought, spineless.
Yeah, that Don't Ask, Don't Tell is kind of puts the footing around the issue.
Right, exactly. I mean, it didn't really resolve anything.
Yeah, all it did was just kick the can down the line a bit more, and hey, now we have another controversy on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's sweep it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist. But it did. And so there were a number of other things, and I'm trying to remember now, but there were a number of other policies which he proposed in his first year, and it was like every time the Republicans gave him any hint that they weren't going to approve it, he would immediately cave on the issue and not push it any further. The Don't Ask, Don't Tell was probably the one that he actually did something about, but it was not, it wasn't what was needed, and it was really what was the de facto policy already. People didn't say they were gay in the military because they didn't want to, get kicked out or whatever. And I don't know if their brass were asking them or what, but yeah, I don't think so. I mean, so it didn't really resolve anything. It didn't address any of the issues. As far as the policy was concerned, it was still basically, if we find out you're gay, we're going to kick you out. And so there was nothing solved, nothing resolved, nothing.
Actually, that kind of remind me of another point. Like when I'm thinking of seeing the current Republican victory as well. It seems like that the Democrats are trying to go more right. Like maybe it could be some kind of delusion, thinking that since Trump won, that means they should actually appeal to more right wingers. And in reality, the reason why they lost is because they alienate the people who normally vote Democrat.
Well, that was the policy that Bill Clinton pursued with the assistance of a guy by the name of Coelho back in the late 80s. They started this new Democrat thing and the Democratic Leadership Council, which was the idea that the Republicans had so much success throughout the 80s with their fiscal conservative policies, with their right-wing economic policies. Hey, let's become fiscally conservative while remaining socially liberal. And therefore they were viewing themselves as a third way or a centrist group, which is a very bad use of the term centrism. But at any rate, they were kind of trying to take some ideas from one party and some ideas from the other party. And this has been described since then as a push towards the right by the Democrats in terms of economics.
And that's been their entire playbook ever since. Run to the left during the primaries, run to the right during the general. And cave every time the Republicans raise an eyebrow at them.
Right.
And it just really gets me every time someone says, you need to vote Democrat. I'm like, why? They didn't do shit for me when they had a majority under Bush. They didn't do shit for me when they had a supermajority under Obama's first year. Why should I ever vote for them?
Well, shifting from topics a little, I guess, from politics, or I guess more of the general election, where do you guys want to go in terms of I don't know, just other areas, or if you want to stay within the realm of specifically politics? Anything in particular?
Will we have flying cars?
No. I mean, yes, but not everybody has a flying car. Because I know some, there are some not exactly the ones we have in movies, but we have for media, but we do have some pseudo flying cars kind of going on.
they'll be incredibly crappy. However, like
Yeah,
2 inches off the ground and scrape the ground.
Yeah, it's like some shitty hovercraft kind of things going on, but I get. But you know what? Since you did say that, we could actually discuss tech, since that is a good way to go about it. So 2 years from now, 2020, I guess, what is going to become the norm, would you say? Like, 2-4 years back, so God knows how long, 3D printing, laser cutting, all that stuff's like, it's still like relatively new, and people are like, whoa, this is, what's this all about? And then like, lo and behold, now we're in an age where it's more or less becoming the norm. You can 3D print or kind of like fabricate all sorts of stuff with just all these like different raw materials, even like working biologically, being able to like somehow create, from what I've heard, artificial organs even, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think actually I heard about like the artificial organs. Like I think how it does is they make it out of some kind of like gelatin like material that encourage like growth of tissue, like something like that.
Correct. They make some kind of like structure for the cells to basically kind of grow off of, and thus eventually you should have like a organ. But whether or not the body would accept that is time will tell. I do believe where we are now, we probably will have like a pretty good rate to crack the code and be able to like start just manufacturing our body parts. But at the same time, we'll have to see like how easy that is, because I mean, let's be honest, it's going to initially start out as a very expensive, not only really process, but just in general, like it's going to be very difficult for us to take on.
Well,
as far as accessibility.
You could theoretically grow organs out of stem cells too, and if you take those from the person's own bone marrow, then it would be their own genetic material and be more likely to be accepted by the body of that person.
I guess it just becomes a matter of time, though. That's the thing. Well, also time and money.
I saw something on Twitter a couple of days ago, I guess, that was about geneticists have found some kind of code in the DNA which is tied to aging, and they might be able to shut it off or something. Did you catch that?
Not that I'm aware of. That might have actually been in a recent video that I haven't seen yet, but I should. As far as the discussion of, if you stop aging, then what? Isn't that a bad thing, technically?
Well, I'm thinking... Sorry, go ahead.
I guess just all I'll say real quick is that even if, you're able to stop aging, I don't know the full science behind it, so this is my somewhat, I don't know, not I guess lack of understanding is the best way to go about it. Basically, we can't just keep ourselves mortal, at least like in this case, that we can't just like stay alive forever. So even if like you can shut off aging, I still do believe that there is a point where your body just can no longer. I mean, well, two things: you're not exactly immortal as far as you're still going to die if you get into like some kind of fatal situation. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But getting back on track as far as just aging itself, I don't know. Part of me is kind of like thinking how you're still going to suffer certain effects, I suppose, as far as just the body breaking down. But I guess like physically you will be able to maintain. I don't know. I don't know actually the context of what exactly how this works, rather. So this is all just speculation, I guess.
Yeah, like actually, like I remember watching like a science video on YouTube talking about like lobsters, and apparently they're cellular-wise they're immortal. However, they don't actually like live forever as long as enough to eat them. Like there's actually so many environmental factors that at some point a lobster would die from natural causes.
Yeah,
Like,
but if they were placed in the proper environment, they could be able to technically live on.
I know, but actually I'm saying, like, see, like, for example, I'm saying, for example, like, the stresses they have of repeatedly, like, molting their cells and trying to grow a new one. Like, that actually could eventually kill the lobster.
Yeah.
See, like, even if you, like, get rid of, like, all predators and diseases, there's still factors we cannot control, like.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, like, when say, like, stop aging, the first thing that comes to mind is, like, the quote-unquote cellular immortality of lobsters.
I did have, on a quick side note, I did have a funny discussion with a popular YouTuber. I guess I'll give him a plug. Internet historian. If you want to throw that link there in the description, you can go ahead and do so. But anyway, we talked about robots, automation, AI, artificial intelligence, and concepts of like utopia and so on and so forth. Mainly because when we were talking about like self-driving cars, for example, being a thing, while it wouldn't exactly be established as a norm, nor would it be like something that everybody would use even like several years from now. It would probably be something more established like 20, 30 years down the line, probably. Which is debatable, but still, that's just what we kind of predicted. What we were talking about was mainly like what will happen if all the trucks are now driving on their own. Then what? Isn't that just suddenly putting like so many Americans that are truck drivers out of a business? And again, it's like, then what? What happens when all the jobs are replaced by robots? Is there any like point to living in a sense, as far as the human experience being kind of like going against these resistances as to like live out life in a way? So if everything's like handed to you and you're living like in this utopian society, what's the point anymore? Well, at least that was like the abstract we were going on, kind of discussing.
Yeah, it seems like most of these like futurists are hoping for like some kind of like socialist utopia in the future.
Isn't futurism an art movement though? Or at least one that originated from like Italy in the very early 1900s.
There is a type of. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's looking weird on my end. I've got red, one bar, voice connected. There is a type of futurism which extends into, it's called transhumanism. Are you familiar with transhumanism?
To an extent.
I heard about it.
Without the horribleness.
It's basically this idea of enhancing the human body by means of cybernetics and eventually evolving beyond what is now Homo sapiens sapiens to a new species of hominid. And also they have this idea that eventually we're going to discover what they call the singularity, which is the first really fully conscious artificial intelligence, which is going to basically, it seems to some extent like they're talking about a new god or something.
What is this, Akira?
I'll look around for some links on it, but right now I'm looking for the link about the thing where the geneticists have found the code to aging in DNA.
Okay. But that was a funny talk, and now my hope is to be able to possibly write about this for a paper on Nietzsche, specifically involved in like the kind of like will to power, the will to live in a way. Since a lot of the ideas tend to be, as far as again like building, or not building, but kind of like living off of resistances, something along those lines. That's kind of just like how life functions for all beings in a sense. And so when you take that away, what left is there?
Yeah, that's like some meaning of life philosophical stuff that, like, if we don't have any purpose, then if we eliminate the needs, then do we have any purposes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it all
Yeah,
depends.
that's all a big
Are we
question.
still stuck on this rock, or are we traveling to space by then?
Well, that's another question for the future. But I don't know. I think there's a good chance we'll be able to get out, but we'll see. I don't know when. Like, I guess mainly we'll be like able to establish colonies and whatnot. I'm not really too interested because it's something that I'm definitely not going to be able to live to see. I can tell you that much for sure.
I only ask because if we're stuck on this rock, I see lots of problems coming from it. I mean, I don't
What is this
see.
going to be?
And what I see happening if we go like, even if all we do is just automate all the trucks and nothing else, then crime is going to skyrocket.
It's not going to be just the trucks. It's going to be.
I know it's going to be everything, and you're going to have like
pretty much, and that was part of my idea of utopias because you guys are familiar with I think it was like Universe 27, 24, 22, something like that. It was the mouse utopia experiments. Basically, this scientist put these mice in like this perfect setting, and it was supposed to be like the utopia for them, where they had basically all the resources they would need: food, proper shelters to build into, no predators, no disease, no sickness. So perfect environmental factors. Everything was like good. I think the only issue was just like spacing. They didn't have like endless amount of space. So eventually, when the mice would reproduce, after a while, there was this point where they would stop, and there were these social hierarchies created. Something along the lines of like the beautiful ones, I don't remember all the names, but basically like some of the mice, I believe, like the more like alpha aggressive males, ended up like dividing territories for themselves and having like their own harems. Some of the males would end up trying to get into like quote unquote deviant behavior as far as like engaging in intercourse with not only females but other male mice as well. And it's just like all sorts of crazy shit. The female mice would like nick their young, where they like bite their tails and like sometimes even take out their just violently attack them. And even though again, there just came a point where the mice stopped breeding, and that was it. The thing like fucking collapsed on itself. It was awful. And a lot of people saw that as just like the possibility for a utopian society, involving like city life and such, that somehow reflective of where humanity can.
That's the thing. We're not mice, and like.
Well, of course.
And if we're still traveling the stars, and if we're traveling the stars and have that utopian future, what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of people saying, "This place sucks. Let's go over there," and start up their own colony, which in itself will provide its own issues and its own challenges, which will prevent how shall I say it, the overall population from declining.
Yeah, actually, I'm thinking about like when I first heard about the mouse utopia experiments. Like, actually, I came across people talking about like MGTOW and third wave feminists, and believe that those movements are actually a sign that the mouse utopia is being fulfilled as we right now.
I'm just gonna laugh my ass off about that. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't really believe that. It's more tight knit societies as far as like against cities and communities that are kind of like very self-contained within themselves.
So I found the link to the article I was talking about. It is from futurist.com or futurism.com or whatever. I posted it in the text channel here in our Discord as well as in the live chat. And also Rexif in the live chat was talking about the artificial organs we were discussing earlier, if you want to take a look at that. And Rexif is a friend of mine from Star Trek Online. He's in my Armada. Brian, I hope you don't mind me using your real name, Brian. But anyway, it's kind of weird to call you Rexif. So anyway, he sent me a PM on Discord as well, where he was addressing the issue of if we have all our needs met, what will we do? And he said Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If your needs are met, you can focus on your higher aspirations. So, I mean, this is an idea that we see in Star Trek, actually. The idea that, you know, we in the Star Trek universe in the future, they live in a post-scarcity economy, and they still, you know, do things. They still aspire to better themselves.
Well, yeah, I would honestly argue that even when we still have, you know, supposedly everything we want, there still is this desire to be able to create. Because, I mean, with art itself, like, I don't believe that even if we do have like systems and AIs that can kind of like create things themselves as far as music and, you know, paintings and such. There's still this human aspect, and that's, you know, that we enjoy seeing particular styles of artwork or particular forms of expression from specific people themselves, and we recognize that from who some of the pieces may be from, and we keep advancing as far as like the different movements, the different styles, and it's incredible like where we are right now, where we're like so self-aware that we seem to have branched away, at least from my understanding, like general art movements, you know, coming out of at least like Europe, or particular like movements throughout history, and now this is just like one big clusterfuck at this point. I think everything's basically now, because we're so globalized, just one big clusterfuck. My curiosity is, since the 1900s have been so well like categorized and, you know, like separated through the decades of U.S. history, more specifically, I'm wondering, and I guess we could also engage about this topic as well, like what will the year 2020 hold for us, or, you know, I guess just the 20s in general. Because we just been through the 10s, and we just were through the, you know, we were for, oh wait, no, that was the 10s, and then this is the 20s, so this would be the 30s, I guess? Or am I doing this the opposite way? Yeah, I'm confusing myself.
We are in the 20-teens, 10s, heading for the 2020s.
Something like that, yeah. Because we just been through the 2000s. And now we're kind of like getting close to getting out of this decade. Well, how would you describe the previous decade, if possible? At least compared to where we are now.
You mean 2001 to 2010?
No, to the year 2000. Yes, I don't know. I would consider it the start of the year, so like the year 2000 to 2009, right before 2010, and then 2010 to where we are now is the cutoff. Or 2010 specifically is the cutoff.
Well, we had Obviously, we had the 9/11 thing that went down, and then the two wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and
The rise and fall of neoconservatism.
I don't know that
Or
it's
shall I say
fallen yet. I
regression?
mean,
I don't think it'll fall.
you've still got McConnell and Leslie Graham and half
I
of.
guess this
That's
decade
why I said regression.
You know, for like
Neoconservatism didn't grow from the old liberalism, which was militarily opposed to anything the Russians did. And then they were like, oh, the Democrats are a bunch of spineless wimps. They're not going to do shit. We're going to move on to the Republicans. And then once communism fell, they moved on to whatever else they could find, which now includes terrorism.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to talk about the previous decade, I don't really know how to describe it. I mean, we certainly have the beginning of endless war, and that seems to be war for profit, war for petroleum, war to maintain American hegemony and so forth. But mostly war to further enrich the already obscenely wealthy, as far as I can see. And of course, we do have the terrorist thing, which is used as the excuse for these wars. We had, then of course, we had Obama come into office in 2008, and he perpetuated that. We also had the first real attempt to dismantle the Bill of Rights with the USA Patriot Act back in 2002, 2001? I forget now, but it was pretty quick after the events of the 11th of September, and it seemed like with this vast amount of text, most of the people who voted for it didn't even have time to read it, let alone seriously give it any real consideration. It was just kind of, yeah, we got to do something.
It was voted in the day it was introduced.
Right.
Outside of the politics, though, like, how would you describe it as, like, I guess also just culture and media in a sense? Again, kind of, versus, like, how we are now.
Well, we got the social media platforms that arose, Twitter and Facebook and MySpace and Google Plus. YouTube.
Would you say that was its own thing, or do you think like this current decade is more kind of swallowed up in that? Because I will say one thing for certain: this was a year of a lot of corporatism just being like shoved into your face, and just kind of like, having these fingers in everything, if you know what I mean, like the fingers in all these different pies, social media presences, deals with like all sorts. I mean, and this has always been the case, but still, like, it's just so grossly obvious. It's insane. Like, especially with things like the Emoji Movie, and like all these other kinds of, lowest common denominator sort of crap being spewed out. Not even just like with Hollywood, but like. I don't know, just video games and other like entertainment media. There's a lot of that. But you know what I would say is going on with this decade in particular. If at all, like the 90s and the 2000s, we kind of had this whole like shift into PC culture, kind of like taking root and being, kind of like growing. I would say like this was definitely, and it's still not over, but still like this has been a decade of pushback against that. I wouldn't say so much even a rise and fall, but definitely like this kind of heightened awareness, and now, if anything, we're in a sense a nation divided, and beyond just politics, just so many issues. Like, people's opinions as far as feminism, opinions on just like social justice kind of concepts, things relating to like education, colleges, campus life, so on and so forth. And I could also just say like shit with video games, but I mean, we all know where we're coming from with that.
Yeah.
No, we don't need to do that whole song and dance.
Well, there's this thing a lot of people talk about, a culture war. It's not really a culture war. It's not two different cultures competing with one another. It's a war of ideologies, and there are more than two which are involved in this struggle.
But I would argue that while it's the semantics, we could say are different, the overall understanding though is that culture and or if anything, mostly like entertainment and media consumption, that there is some kind of, if you want to call it a war, more or less a conflict kind of going on through everything, because as we said, like social justice has kind of like infested all these different facets, and some people have said this has gone too far, and that's why we see not only just like a lot of YouTube channels kind of coming up over the years, kind of like pushing back, but now even like content-wise, you will see a lot of this popular stuff being like specifically cringe compilations, fail compilations of people relating to Antifa, feminism, SJW, like whatever kind of crap, nonsense, garbage. But even if that's like a topical thing that people like to see and laugh at, it just somehow still keeps getting like millions of hits, some of those videos, because unsurprisingly, I guess. Like, yeah, sorry.
I don't think it's really fair to simplify it as social justice, because social justice is something that was a term that was come up with back in the 1800s. It was originally a Roman Catholic notion, and what we see now is something which is postmodernism, or the results of postmodernism, what Liana Kirshner refers to as outrage warriors, and Nick Groff calls outrage mongers. They're people who...
Yes and no. I would say, if any, I mean, well, that's the thing. Like, that's also the case with feminism itself. Being just a bastardization of what it should essentially be, in terms of fighting for and like uplift women. But instead, now we have these, everybody trying to fucking virtue signal, and then some of them end up being these fucking predators. But that's another topic.
Yeah, that third wave feminism. I've said several times that it seems to me like what happened that changed feminism, or that changed what is called feminism from the second wave mainstream, which was largely about liberation and equality, to what we have now, was the fact that there were people in second wave feminism who were on what was known as the lunatic fringe, who were, sex negative, androphobic, man haters, basically, anti-pornography,
quote-unquote feminazis,
all that sort of stuff. They did exist, but they were on the margins. They weren't part of the mainstream. However, the media, in order to sell papers, they wanted to grab the most sensationalistic stories and headlines they could. So feminist calls for forced castration of all men would garner more views and sell more papers and whatever than feminist is saying like the rest of us. And also, I think that somewhere along the way, a new generation of people came along, and this was what they associated feminism with, and so that's all they knew about feminism. And then you've got this whole feminist critical theory thing that comes up, where basically you look at everything through this lens of whatever the type of feminism is that you embrace, and so it eventually becomes a worldview. It's how you view the world. And I don't think feminism was ever intended to be that. Feminism was a movement.
I have to disagree with you partially.
Well, I don't think it was in the first and second waves intended to be a complete worldview. It was just a movement to...
Well, no, it's not about that. It's an earlier point you made as far as how it kind of came to where it is now. You want to know what I would blame? Intersectionality.
Intersectionality is a term that's very much misused. In theory, intersectionality is similar to solidarity and should be a good thing, but the way that they're doing it now, with the combination with identity politics, for example, it becomes instead of building intersection and solidarity, it builds division, because everyone is focused on their own little identity and what they can get for themselves, and not cooperating.
You can say that with a lot of that. That's why we keep referring to these things. Again, as far as just semantics, it's all a bastardization. This isn't supposed to be the case for any of this, because we all know what this should be. And like, I don't, for example, I don't like using the term SJW or whatever, because on the opposite side, it's the same thing as calling someone like a Meninist or a alt-right or whatever, like, shit people want to spew and mislabel. And I see people do it on the opposite side, like, oh, it's the SJW, Nazi, whatever shit. Like, this has all come about because not only is there like so much miscommunication, but there's just this really idiotic way of going about things. And it's just, as you said, like, rather than people trying to unify and like uplift, there's this need to like deconstruct and like, supposedly overthrow the system, because like it's a no-sum game or something along those lines. Everybody who's a minority, in the pyramid stack is just set to lose if you're not a white, straight, cis male. You're just going to get fucked in the end. So that's why there's this idea that like we need to take it apart, and again, it's like rather than uplift people, we want to just try and tear people down. I don't obviously think that that's how everybody feels, but I do think that that is one of the issues that we tend to see, as far as, again, with like the scientist or astrophysicist or whoever who was wearing like that shirt, the vacation shirt that he got like so much shit for, even though like he did, he and his team like did that amazing job landing the satellite on an asteroid. Like, no, they comment about his shirt being sexist or too tacky or some nonsense.
Oh, like, right, the shirt. I remember that.
Yeah. It was like Matt Hickey. I mean, that's, I might be cherry picking, but still in that regard, like, I think that is a prominent example as far as rather than show this kind of idea of progress, or just you'd rather pull somebody down, and try and hurt them. I don't know. There's and then even like ignoring Gigi and other similar cases, just stuff involving like colleges and schools with issues with free speech, and also not even getting into the politics of like our neo-Nazis or any other like kind of crazy individuals or ideologies. Are they allowed to like have a platform there? I'm going to ignore that. It's more or less just the nuanced stuff, like Brett Weinstein, for example. An Evergreen State College can't be allowed to stay when they decide to reverse, for the day. Okay, no white faculty or students allowed. None of that. Instead of the people of color being able to leave based on a tradition, they want to change it around. And it's like, no, I'm paid to teach my students. They come here, they're paying money to learn. Like, you guys can't just like say, we're gonna kick you out, because that's divisive. And you get where I'm coming from. Like, it's these kinds of weird ideas that as you said, everybody wants to like be categorized, and yet for some reason there's also like this self-hate where they're like, oh, I don't like it when like the white man puts me into a box and like says, oh, I'm the female Latino, or whatever is, yes, et cetera, or I'm the gay black man. And yet, like, for some reason, there's double standards involved.
Right. Yeah. Well, see, I don't know. I have been following Brett Weinstein on Twitter for a while, and of course, I think you saw the video that I did a while back where I talked about a variety of things, including the situation at Evergreen and Brett's call for dialectic instead of debate. So, yeah, I understand that. Certainly, there has been a change in academia since I was in school some millennia ago. But I mean, back then, we didn't have trigger warnings or safe spaces, and we didn't have this idea of being insulated from the rest of the world. In fact, we were encouraged to be critical thinkers, and we were challenged, and we were presented with alternative ideas.
Yeah, but now instead it's this kind of opposition to actually hosting, controversial dialogue.
Yeah, it's like a daycare.
Though there are some schools that I think are, trying to champion and return to that kind of normalcy, but we'll just have to see. I won't deny my school. I won't say what it is, but yeah, even we have sometimes safe spaces kind of set up, but I mean, what can you do? I can't tell the school, oh, don't do this kind of shit. Like this is ridiculous, despite the fact that the students would protest themselves as far as this is the kind of thing that they want or need. Returning back to childhood nostalgia or something along those lines. Doing the coloring books or whatever kind of shit, blowing bubbles.
Yeah, it's not really preparing them for life in the real world, because once they get out of school, they're going to have to face the reality that there are people out there who don't agree with them. There are people who will get up in their faces and tell them you're full of shit. And
that's what I'm concerned with, because part of me understands people want to find this outlet for them to be able to try and get away from frustration, depression, whatever else. But this is not the kind of outlet we should be fostering. And so I'm just I don't know. I don't know what exactly they're looking for instead. Should they take up something like going to the gym and hitting the punching a bag or some shit? So, some other way to vent frustrations and try and find a good place. But instead we have this, or not instead, but I guess we have this, and instead some students choose to do that. I can't speak for the entire student body. I can't speak for anybody here in my school, but just the fact that we have it, though, I don't know. It just seems a little ridiculous. And even not in the regards to academic related stuff. Just it's more or less when finals are coming about and everybody's scrambling doing projects and all sorts of crazy shit for their work. I guess it's just a way to de-stress, but again, it still just seems a little ridiculous. For academia to kind of set that up rather than the student doing it for themselves.
So what do you guys think about it, Lunar 5 and Ryan? Y'all carry on talking amongst yourselves. I'm going to go grab another soda.
No problem.
Sorry, I kind of not ranting, but more just rambling.
Yeah, you two kind of had the whole conversation to yourselves there.
Yeah.
It's more just me trying to grasp that thought. I'm all over the place.
I do agree. I think the main reason why the colleges are like that is because people want to influence culture, yet they really don't really know how to do it proper. Don't how to do it if it can be done at all. That's clearly what all these these social justice classes are, trying to influence culture to their ideas.
This is why I love, or maybe I should say it later so Olivia can put another plug. But no, in all seriousness, this is why I like channels like Medicurs, because there's the embracing just complete like total chaos, and as kind of bad as it is, at the same time I appreciate it because I love seeing like degeneracy kind of like just talk straightforward to, rather than like people kind of tiptoeing around the issues or doing like this sort of weak-willed responses and whatnot. It's more like finding and making fun, not really like even getting outraged with all these other channels as like the run-of-the-mill rationalist, skeptic, anti-SJW, anti-fem, whatever nonsense kind of shit. Not to say that all those channels are bad necessarily, but they've become so popularized over the years that now there's just like an influx of all these different personalities kind of like out and about.
Yeah.
And they're all saying the same thing too. It's like, watch one, you've watched them all.
Yeah, there's like only specific ones I'm a fan of. Again, like Medicars I like because he's self-aware enough to be like, fuck this noise. I'm not like everybody else. Because this is the shit I would talk about like, way years back. And now the fact that everybody's talking about it, like, no, I'm not going to really cover this kind of stuff as much anymore. So he just finds anything that he thinks is just either peculiar or something just hilarious to talk shit about. And he just, he runs with it. So whereas that was, the kind of stuff he was finding, now he's like looking into just other random, not even with like his usual series, but just any topics. Like one of the recent ones being with, I'm trying to remember like specifically. It had to do with like this individual who apparently said like he looked up kids in the bathtub or something like that, pictures of kids in the bathtub, because he wants to like have kids himself one day, and everybody's like, okay, looking up kids like playing or whatever out in like a playground, fine, whatever, but like specifically like kids playing in the bathtub, that's very specific. And
yeah,
they kept pressing him on it, and it got worse and worse. And I don't know, the guy has issues, but still, he's fucking crazy. And his friends were like, trying to defend him, despite the fact that he clearly was showing signs of issues with his mental state.
Actually, have you seen like Metacourse like series where he talks about like bizarre fan art fandoms in DeviantArt?
Yeah, Deviants. Yeah. That's more just cringe-inducing nonsense, kind of showcasing. It's not. it's nothing like super unique or whatnot, but it's always like just the banter he kind of throws out there is just always hilarious on its own.
Yeah. Though, like, I guess sometimes kind of this is also kind of look at like internet culture as well. Like most of the stuff I saw Medicore, he's mainly doing as like some kind of like mostly as entertainment, like just simply find something on internet and news story, and just simply like have fun with it. Like,
well, yeah, no, that's his thing. He says he finds stupid shit and then just laughs. And then, again, that's what I like so much, because I'm kind of tired of like some channels that are always like, this battle of ideology and calling shit out and whatnot. Like I appreciate them for some of like the commentary, but again, at the same time, it's just so run of the mill, and now it's kind of like you can only like follow along for so long until you're like, I'm not really that engaged or as interested, unless it's something that's like, just something relevant going on that I want to like get some like feedback on, because I may not know about it as much, or so on and so forth. And that's also why like I am more interested in some of like the I guess you'd say kind of quote unquote entertaining YouTubers, as far as like Chris Raygun in particular. he always seems to be like not taking himself too seriously and just kind of like also making fun of shit, but more like a lighter, lighter tone, despite like the kind of bleached dark humor nonsense, and it's all like this kind of like dumb irony shit. But for the most part, I like guys like him a little more. Whereas I guess like Armored Skeptic, for example, not really a bad guy, but I don't know. I think he's probably like funnier maybe in the earlier 2000s, but for what he's doing now, I'm not really. I don't see myself like laughing as much. It's just more kind of like, okay, we're going back and forth, and I'm gonna like do these long-winded explanations, just trying to like argue a point, which is fine, but it's not really my cup of tea.
Yeah, like I can understand like about like entertainment value, like because in these days, positivity is a very valuable commodity. Yeah,
indeed.
Like Metacore, like he made us do commentary, but he also presented in an entertaining way, and also like I guess like Harmful Opinions, he does like more on the commentary side, and does make good points, but he also presented in a very humorous way.
Harmful I can't talk about as much because he doesn't do YouTube videos anymore, really. I mean, he has his other channel, but still, like, based on Volcanda drama and getting his account hacked and videos removed, like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I still like what he used to do, but where he is now, as far as doing more Twitch-related stuff, I don't really use Twitch. I'm not really. I can't say like as much in terms of positivity, but he himself, he's a great guy for the shit he put out. he's definitely has some fun stuff usually.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm not following as much anymore, so I can't say.
Well, he does still do some of the old style stuff. It's just he doesn't seem to be making as many videos now as he used to.
Yeah, because YouTube, fuck it.
Well, I mean, whenever your entire catalog of work disappears and shit like that, it's kind of depressing. This happened to me once.
Exactly. Like I said, just fuck it at that point.
I had a computer which died on me with no warning. I mean, it just completely went. And I tried to rebuild it, and I guess the hard drive was completely gone because I couldn't recover anything. But I managed to. I hadn't backed everything up. I had backed quite a bit up, but there were some more recent things that I hadn't backed up yet. So I lost quite a bit of work, but I was able to recover it through some friends who emailed me copies of things that I had posted here and there and stuff like that. So, I mean, like the book I was working on at the time, I had about 300 pages, and I managed to recover about 296 pages. So that wasn't too bad. I mean, there are only 4 pages that were gone, and I could rewrite those easily enough. But yeah, I was kind of bummed by that. And it led to me changing a direction a bit for a while.
But we were just kind of discussing as far as, I guess, different YouTubers we find kind of fun to follow in this stage, since everybody's kind of taking part in the banter.
Yeah. Like, I used to, like, follow Sergeant of a COD, but I don't anymore because, like, for one thing, like, he really seems to take this whole culture of war thing more seriously than it should, like.
Well, Sargon has changed quite a bit over the years. I mean, a few years ago, the stuff that he was doing, I agree with more than some of the stuff that he's doing now.
I think it's because a lot of people have influenced him.
Yeah. Well, I do. I still like. I think the Thinkery, that channel that he has called the Thinkery, is still pretty
Yeah,
good.
because that's more just like it's his shit posting kind of like make fun stuff, which is again like the things we're enjoying. But
Right, that's the one I pay more
Yeah.
attention to than his main channel nowadays. I certainly like Wizard of Cause. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. I've started watching Jeff Holiday a bit as well recently because of the YouTube Saints podcast, which he does with Nick Groff, or Wizard of Cause, which I watch usually every time it's live. So, I mean, I watched the Jimmy Dore show and Lee Camp Redacted tonight. And occasionally, when I can find something new by Abby Martin, I will watch her stuff. Netscape isn't doing as much now as he was back during the summer because he's back in school and he's working full time, so he doesn't make as many videos or do as many live streams as he was doing during the summer.
Yeah. Well, he was on someone else's live stream today talking about gun control.
Right. Yeah, I saw that when I sat in the live chat for that. You were there too.
Yep.
Let's see. There's Grim Jim. I like his stuff. He's got some interesting content.
Other than Medicare, the only one I'll throw out real quick is what's this? Internet historian who I think is one of the. I mean, I'm biased as hell because I'm helping out on his server quite a bit, but still, just the fact that he literally made his channel like right at the start of like 2017 January, and he's blown the fuck up so well that he's close to already 500,000 subscribers in less than a year. And for the most part, he's just, again, like covering all sorts of like weird topics for fun. Some relating to like 4chan. Most of them, though, relating to like conventions, got horribly wrong. Few on strange individuals, strange cases. It's just a mixed bag of things, which is nice.
Do you ever watch The Humanist Report?
No. Unfamiliar with them, but I guess we should probably like shift gears since this probably like past 10, 20 minutes, however long. Just been kind of like doing a circle jerk of people, or personalities we kind of like.
Yeah, well, I do like The Humanist Report with Mike Figueredo and Tim Black TV. Those are pretty good too. Sometimes I watch Debbie Lusignan, Sane Progressive, and sometimes I watch Zoan Politikon with Holly Seeliger, but those are a little bit hit and miss, both of them. Yes. Especially whenever Debbie starts yelling, I kind of, it's like she's pretty calm in the beginning of the video, and about the last...
She works herself up, and to the point where the last third, she's just yelling.
But there have been some of her videos more recently where she didn't yell at all, and I thought they were quite good. All right, so what do you want to talk about now, then?
Well, I guess, again, we didn't really get to cover it because we were more doing a reflection of the past, but perhaps a look, and it's hard to do so, but a look into the future of what based on where we are now and where we might be in the next 10 years, what that decade's going to look like, or kind of be known for.
Well, you know about the Alcubierre drive, right?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Give me a recap, I suppose.
It's a kind of an attempt to build an engine, basically, a drive that will propel a spacecraft faster than light, so that we could actually have starships and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, I have some stuff about that, and there are a few videos on the internet. There's a a new sort of, I don't want to call it a space shuttle. It does look a little bit like a space shuttle, but it also looks like a cross between a space shuttle and the original Starship Enterprise from the original series of Star Trek. And they even named it, I believe the name is IXS Enterprise. So, but it has a ring around it, which is supposed to be the thing, it maybe has 2 rings around it, which is supposed to be the drive itself. And I guess what it does theoretically is, now Brian out there in the audience can probably tell us more about it than I can remember from the videos I've watched and the articles I've read. How about it, Brian? Can you say anything about the Alcubierre drive?
Well, so from what I can gather, you're trying to say that next decade we're going to be known for space travel, perhaps?
I do think it is a distinct possibility. I mean, we would have to put more money into research and into NASA and so forth. But I think it is.
Oh, that's easy. Just point at a planet and yell, "There be commies, there be oil." They
Yeah,
have it.
oil.
And there you go.
There's oil on Mars. Let's go. Let's go.
Well, from what I understand, for there to be oil, there must at least be at one time life on the planet, which some scientists agree that one time Mars could have been alive.
Yeah, there seems to be some evidence that Mars at one time did support life. So there could be oil there.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm thinking about faster than light travel. Like I remember when I was in school, like when we're learning about science, the textbooks say that even at the speed of light, it will take like so many years to reach the nearest solar system.
Depends what point of view you're going. If you're on the rocket, it'll only take about 4.
Yeah,
that's how far away it is, like 4 light years.
And what I'm getting from what I seem to remember from what I read about the Alcubierre drive is that it creates a warp bubble around the vessel, and so time moves differently inside the bubble than it does outside the bubble. So you would be experiencing time passage more slowly than time outside the bubble. I'm not real sure. It's like you could get to a place very quickly, and for you it would seem like only a short period of time had passed, whereas for whatever was outside the bubble, significantly more time would pass, or I may have that reversed. Either way, it supposedly bends space and time around the bubble.
Yeah, that's some like mind-boggling stuff there. Like if you know like someone with a degree in physics, like maybe bring them on, like they'll probably explain much better. Like, oh,
I'll dig up some of the links I have on that later and post them into the Res Publica server so you guys can look at it.
so we can actually talk about like how many, like even with this drive, how long will it take to go to their solar system? It should at the very least give us like a viable way to visit planets and other bodies within our solar system. Like because like one of the hurdles of trying to land a man on Mars is because there's only a short period of time where Mars is close to the Earth, and even then that will take a long period of time.
Right, so we could explore our own solar system as well as go to other solar systems if this drive actually works the way the people working on it say it will.
Well, yeah, that's not.
So I can probably imagine like this would take like a huge amount of power, and Of course, I'm thinking like by the time we got it working, like we'll probably find like a better alternative than oil. Like maybe it would be required to use this thing to the first place. So there's really no motivation to mine Mars. Though, like I understand, like there's like lots of like valuable minerals in the asteroid belts of our solar system.
Right, so surely there would be some kind of incentive for people interested in profit to be willing to fund such research and development.
The only problem is getting there, mining it, and getting it all back. So practically everything.
I'm thinking like our value. Like I'm thinking like what if in the future like there's like a shortage of water, like we could just simply like go out and bring a comet back to Earth and maybe melt that and maybe do ways to purify the water in it. So like I'm just thinking about all these like post-apocalyptic situations, like a shortage of water, so like or shortages in natural resources. Like all we do is just go into space and bring like an asteroid or comet back.
The problem isn't running out of water, it's running out of groundwater and completely using up all our aquifers. So we can't grow food that requires irrigation. That's the main problem.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to run out of water if the polar ice caps keep melting.
Yeah. Of course, like about like fresh water, like there are actually ways to desalinate seawater, and I'm guessing like by then when it becomes a problem, we'll probably perfect the way to more efficiently desalinate seawater.
We can do it now, just kind of takes a lot of money.
Yeah, like
So about social media and technological devices. I mean, just a few years ago, we didn't have tablets or smartphones, and we do now. Of course, the flip phone was considered revolutionary at the time. I still have somewhere one of those old car phones, which was like sort of like those military phones that they had in the Jeeps in World War II. It was a whole fucking it was big, you know. So I mean, that was from I guess the 90s. It was a car phone. It wasn't a mobile phone, really. I mean, it was, you could carry it in the car. You could take it in the house and plug it in and charge it. But you could use it outside the car, but it was quite a bulky thing. It wasn't something you would be able to carry in your pocket or your purse or whatever.
the brick.
It was bigger. It was like the size of my laptop here, basically, except it was thicker and heavier.
Yeah. Actually, I heard like with those old phones, you can actually run a truck over it and still in working condition.
This was it was like a little pouch, and it had 2 or 3 sections that you could get into. One of the sections held a battery, and the battery was the size of, I guess it was about as thick as 2 packs of cigarettes stuck, together, and it was probably a little bit longer than 2 packs of cigarettes, one on top of the other. And then there was the phone part of it, which was the handheld device. It had the number keys on the back side of the phone. You dial and push send and hold it up to your face just like a normal phone in the house. It had like one of those little coily spiraling cords that connected back to the transmitter and receiver, I guess. And then you had an antenna, a small like plastic covered antenna or rubber covered antenna on the outside that you folded up whenever you had it in use, or you could even get one of those things with a magnet on it you could put on top of the car that you could connect to it. Those antennae there, and I had one of those as well. But it was really not the kind of thing that it was nothing like what we have today with the smartphones and the flip phones and things like that. And, I mean, some of these ideas came out of Star Trek. The tablet came from the pad in Star Trek The Next Generation. The flip phone is based on the communicators from the original series. We've got all kinds of stuff that has been inspired by science fiction. So I guess maybe if we look at what is going on in science fiction today, we might have an idea of what kind of technology we might have in, say, 10, 15 years from now.
Yeah, like, actually, I remember an interesting story, like, during World War II, like, people who were, the government actually found, like, this, like, science fiction magazine that gave a very accurate description of a nuclear bomb, and they were actually afraid that this guy, the writer, might be, like, some kind of spy spilling secrets. Turns out it was actually a major coincidence. Like, see, like, a lot of these science fiction writers actually just looking to see, like, okay, what is possible based on what we currently know, and maybe this guy was just simply has some knowledge, that was reading some papers from Albert Einstein and said that this could actually be used to make a weapon, make a highly destructive weapon. And coincidentally, that's what they'd be doing in real life. And
right. So what are we seeing in science fiction now that we think might be something possible for the next decade or so? We've got the replicants from Blade Runner, and we've got sex robots being built in Japan, right?
Yeah, I mainly heard about, like, the sex robots because I came across, like, some goofy, like, MGTOW channels talking about them, like, sex, like, some people there's actually people out there actually believe that one day women will become extinct and will be replaced by sex robots. Not joking.
Yeah, that's crazy talk.
Yeah, like, I'm thinking, basically the idea is, like, a sex robot with an artificial womb built in, and I'm thinking, like, that, okay, like, look, having, like, having a high-tech sex toy is probably something we'll see in our lifetime, but trying to, like, create a completely artificial womb is probably a completely different story.
Yeah, I think that's a little too far advanced for us to come up with in the next decade or two.
Yeah.
I disagree, but not, like, that specifically. I do think that I don't know about, like, replacing humans to the same extent, but there being, like, the possibility for just essentially, like, artificial insemination kind of apparatuses that may resemble humans. Some, again, to an extent, that might definitely be something within the next few decades, but I wouldn't say, like, the next decade it's totally going to be, like, something we'd see here and there. Like, no, of course not.
Now, I knew a girl back in the 90s who was very interested in the idea of having an android body, of having her consciousness transferred into an android body. And she kept insisting that it was possible and it was something that was being worked on at the time. But, I mean, she smoked a lot of pot, too, so I don't know how seriously to take her on that particular question.
Yeah, like, of course, I'm thinking, like, about, like, seeing, like, in current sci-fi, like, I think Star Trek, even though it tried to, like, show a more positive future through technology, they kind of, like, talking about, like, with cybernetics, they kind of also showed, like, a possible negative, like, with the Borg.
Right, and you see, even in the original series, the episode "The Way to Eden," where they were talking about a lot of What was the name of that disease that had developed as a result of living in sanitized environments that Dr. What's-His-Name had?
I don't know.
You remember the guy with the funky-looking ears who was like the bald-headed dude that was the cult leader of all those space hippies?
Fuck that episode.
Oh, come on now, heading out to Eden. Yay, brother.
Yeah, kind of predicted like some fears about an over like our germophobia and trying to over sanitize everything might actually prevent us developing proper immunities. Like that's probably one of the reasons why we see like so much rampant allergies these days. And also like sort of the whole idea about trying to like clean yourself with all these like harsh antibacterial chemicals may one day eventually lead to superbugs. So yeah, like there's always like I guess there's always like a negative with scientific progress as well as the positive.
Or at least potential.
Yeah. Though, like speaking of like what scientific breakthroughs we're going to see in our lifetime, I'll probably say cloning a mammoth. Like,
I would love to ride on a mammoth.
Yeah. Or actually something that even is like that is actually probably even more amazing that's possible is I guess kind of in the same theme, but we all seen the movie Jurassic Park.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, like of course, like how they clone the dinosaur, and that it's probably never going to happen. Like how do we create one? But there is another way to do it is by actually taking like an egg of a fertilized egg of a modern day bird, which believed to be the modern ancestors of dinosaurs, and actually do some do some things to it to activate some recessive genes to make what hatch look as much like a prehistoric dinosaur as possible. Like giving it teeth and claws and a long tail.
How about transporters? Do you think we'll see those in any near future?
Well,
I doubt it. There's too many variables to account for.
Yeah, like
even if you get like one atom wrong in the wrong spot, you're completely screwing over the person who's being transported.
Like there's like some kind of like some philosophical implications there. Like, are we actually really transporting to one place or not, or are we just simply destroying the original and just creating a perfect duplicate in our place? Like,
depends how we do it. If we do it Star Trek way, we're probably just killing the individual over and over and over again.
Yeah, like
if it just opens, like if it's just, oh, we drop this thing on the surface and it opens a portal, then it's the same individual.
Don't remember like several years ago there was actually someone actually tried to use similar principles as in Star Trek transport to actually transport a photon of light. It's by far away actually it's very far from actually transporting matter, but this technology could actually be used as a new way to transfer data to one place to another.
That's an interesting idea.
Don't we already do that with fiber optic cables? Basically use light signals to transfer data.
Well, I think like fiber optics is more on the principle of like what we currently use wires, except we use glass. Like it's just simply like a whole, like a line of something that have data transferred to it. I'm not actually talking about like something completely wireless that can just be transported from one place to another more efficient than say radio. So like I'm thinking like I guess like we're talking about like breakthroughs. Like I guess like maybe we should actually. I wonder if we should make room for like maybe possible technological blunders. Like I know like I currently use an iPhone 5, but I kind of like it that way because it's the kind of phone that doesn't like bend in my pocket. So like
and it comes with a headphone jack, unlike the newest iPhones.
Yeah,
Thanks.
like yeah, like I'm just saying, like, see, like sometimes, like maybe with our like disposable culture, we try to like create stuff with cheaper material, but is that really all that good? Like, it could easily get destroyed, and we have to like pay a sum of money to get a new one, and even then, like there could be like valuable data in our old one that we forgot to transfer. Like when my iPhone 5 actually like dropped it so many times, and it's still in working order. It's still fully functional. That's how durable it is. It's kind of basically like the brick, but you're able to fit it right in your pocket. So I'm thinking like maybe the one technological like and scientific blunders we would see would be kind of like sort of the demand of making stuff more cheaply. Any other thoughts on that?
Like with planned obsolescence, basically.
Everything's made to be broken. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so next topic.
Well, that's an old socialist talking point against capitalism, but I don't find it a good one.
Well, I mean, I've been complaining for a few years now about going down to the local mart and buying some cheap plastic crap made in a sweatshop somewhere, and then it breaks within a week of buying it, and you go back and buy another one, and it's you rinse and repeat, right?
Well, that's because you're buying a cheap plastic crap made in a sweatshop in China.
Right, but
Not their fault you're buying it.
Where else can you go when this is the only place around for miles?
Get in your car and start driving.
They've run every local business out of business, basically.
Do what Hank Hill did in King of the Hill and blow it up with propane.
Well, the local mart has gone out of business now, so we do have a dollar store and a grocery store, and we have a hardware store and an auto parts store, Napa. So we do have a few businesses left, and there's a couple of pharmacies, and maybe things will start growing again, but I don't know. And I'm still not really sure why they went out of business. I think it might have been because the city fathers didn't want them to put in a 24/7 super blank mart. But okay, so what do you guys have anything else you want to talk about?
Well, actually, like about like sort of like the dark side of future technology, like with advancement of internet, and of course, Critical got me thinking. Like recently, we heard about like Red Pill Black making a doxing website, and it got me think. I guess another like potential like dark side of like advancement technology, especially in regards to the internet, is like, can we actually keep our how necessary is our anonymity, and can we actually maintain it with this current internet culture? Like,
I think
don't worry, your ISP has everything on you. You don't have that anymore.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more difficult. I mean, you have sites like Facebook that you have to use your real name, supposedly, in order to get on. There was a period of time when Google was trying to enforce a real name policy, but that got rejected eventually after enough of the users said, fuck you, we're not going to do that. I
believe one of the, was he HR or anyway, one of the guys at Blizzard when they were doing their BattleNet thing, they were trying to enforce the real name policy on their forums, and he was stupid enough to go first. You can imagine what happened to him.
Yeah. There's an alternative supposedly to YouTube. Some guys trying to start. I saw it mentioned on Reddit recently, and they also have this policy of giving them your real name, and I'm like, but why? You know, I mean, what's the point? Well, if you're gonna make money off the service, blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, what if I'm not gonna make money off the service, so you don't actually need my real name, right? So I don't know, but I don't think that guy ever replied to me. I posted a couple of things where I questioned him about it and pointed out the flaws, and I don't recall ever seeing a response.
Yeah, like it does seem like social media has pushed, like many social media platforms are pushing for like to get rid of anonymity, but at the same time, if you look at the culture, like and the fact that there are people who are willing to like violently attack you just for saying a view, like anonymity is also is something that is increasingly needed.
Yeah, this is true. Well, my real name is not a secret. In order to copyright the stuff that I've written and so forth, I include my legal name, because if you use a pseudonym to copyright something, you don't have as long a period of time that the copyright is enforced as you do if you use your real name. So anything I have on the internet that is copyrighted has my name on it. And also, but at the same time, I use a lot of names like Liviana, for example. This is obviously not my real name. It's my pen name. And then I have some other accounts where I use other names. Like, we all have these little weird names that we came up with back in the 90s for our various accounts on various sites. Like, I'm Proto-Goth here and there, and let's see, I've been Succuba Suprema here and there, and I don't even remember all the other various names I've used off the top of my head, but yeah, there are certainly alternate accounts that I have which don't have any part of my real name in them.
Yeah, actually, with my YouTube account, I just didn't bother and just use my real name like as well. Like,
I think Dark Moon fell asleep on us. Are you still out there, Dark Moon?
Yeah, just roommates are asleep, so I can't talk as much.
Okay. They seemed to be rather noisy earlier.
Sorry about that.
I think I heard one of them yell about something. I couldn't make out what was said.
He's probably playing like Overwatch.
All right, well, if there's nothing else we have on the menu to talk about, how about we go ahead and close down?
Sure.
that sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, we've been going for over an hour now, so I think that's good enough. To the people who have watched us live, thanks for hanging out. And
what the hell are you doing with your life?
Yeah, wait. Well, we could take some questions if anybody's actually out there still. I'm not sure if Brian is still paying attention to the chat or not. All three of our viewers, of whom one is me and one is Ryan, and I don't know if Brian is still there or not, but So, I mean, 2 of the 3 viewers are people that are in the stream itself. I guess not. All right, well, thanks you guys for coming on and chatting with me about various things. It was fun. We will do it again sometime. Maybe we'll have a more rigorous format of things to discuss. I hope to get Netscape on here sometime in the near future. Also, I will be doing an interview with a professor emeritus of theology who got railroaded out of his position whenever he decided to question the literal existence of Adam and Eve. So that should be quite interesting. And then I have another interview planned for sometime in December with a journalist. I'm not really sure if she would identify herself as a second-wave feminist or not, but the things that she says certainly seem more in tune with second-wave feminism than the current crop of neo-feminists, as I call them. And then I will be continuing my series of videos about the historical context of postmodernist outrage mongers in the weeks ahead. So until next time, everyone, have fun but stay safe.